I'm all about winning matches. Now, to win matches, you have to be mega aggressive and you have to risk it all. And that's exactly what I did when I was on this very same peg when I caught 152 pounds. So how did I do it? I'm going to show you right now. We're on the Lansdowne Lake, peg 60, the scene of my most recent match win. How did I do it? Well, it was a two-pronged approach. The first sort of half, 2/3 of the match, I targeted skimmers, but I targeted the right stamper skimmers, those big weight building pound plus fish. Then kept my eyes open, noticed a few carp starting to come in the edge, got my timings absolutely perfect and fished for carp in the edge, caught 10, over 100 pound, fish up to 15 pound. So an amazing finish. One of those matches where everything went just perfectly. The main reason I like to target a mixed bag in the spring is carp don't tend to feed for the full 5 hours. They might feed early and late. Particularly late tends to be what I call the golden hour. So it becomes really, really important to fill in the gap, so to speak. And that's where quality silvers like skimmers come into play. So on the match itself, I started on the feeder. First hour and 10 minutes, literally nothing happened, as in I had 8 ounces in the net, but that wasn't unexpected. And it was all about priming the skimmer line. When I say priming, I fed it very aggressively. There's loads and loads of fish in Meadowlands, and I was on an end peg. So when you're on an end peg, you've got the ability to pull a lot more fish in than would be the case, obviously, if it's tightly pegged or everyone's doing the same. So I fed very aggressively with wetted down 4 mils, fishery 4 mils. When I say very aggressively, if I just demo to you, I'm just going to put a grain of corn on the hook to start, just to see how many roach, because you get a lot of roach here in amongst the skimmers. So we're going to put a grain of corn on. And when I say feeding aggressively, I'm pretty much, it's only a little pouch, so you wouldn't call it double pouching, but I'm feeding literally 20 to 30 pellets, maybe more than that, 30 to 40, twice. The reason being, a large percentage of these pellets aren't going to get to the bottom. They're going to get wiped out by, I call them nuisance silvers, but the wrong size of silvers. So we're talking ounce to 3 ounce roach, little tiny skimmers. The fish I'm looking for are proper skimmers, like pound plus fish. They're the weight builders. You know, bearing in mind, it's about winning. It's not about playing safe, catching a nice 20 pound and coming middle of the road. I guess in reality, this kind of approach is quite risky, but it's about winning for me. And that's how you win matches. You win matches by being positive. You don't win matches by sort of faffing about and doing a little bit of everything. You might be asking, did I feed it like this from the start? And the answer is no. I did keep up the catty in right from the start, as in, while I'm sitting fishing the feeder, I'm every sort of 2-3 minutes, two pouches of pellets, but I kicked it off with a big pot, probably a third corn, and then sort of 200 mil of micros, just formed into a loose ball, because the wind was very much the same as today. There's a bit of tow, and I just wanted to make sure it got down. I was just looking to put a little bit of a bed down and then loose feed over the top. It's really, oh, that's an indication. It's really important as well to keep bait falling through the water. It felt like everything was off bottom, and it's a case, if you've got no, even if you're not catching, you tended to catch in runs. I remember I picked it up sort of after an hour and 10, went out, I wasn't sure if I was going to get a bite. Then literally went in probably 2-3 minutes, £1.5 skimmer, and then you were away. It's getting that first fish, which is the key. The earlier you can get it, obviously the better chance you've got of a big weight. This literally like a rerun, as in, I reckon I've been out there 2 minutes. And unless this is a carp coming in easy, I think this is exactly the stamper skimmers I'm talking about. There we go. They're the ones that allow you to put a lot of weight together. So I reckon they're what, they're £1.8, maybe a bit bigger. When there's not many carp feeding, I can literally tick over. And I mean, I caught 48 pound of them in the match in probably 2.5 hours. But 48 pound, that was 5 carp. And in that time, that's pretty much 5 carp, the equivalent weight of. No one else on the lake caught 5 carp. So by fishing for skimmers I'm actually ahead of the game. And then what happened was, there was a couple of people who had as many edge fish as I did, but they hadn't got 48 pounder skimmers. So that allowed me to win the match. The skimmers won me. You can argue both species win you the match, but the skimmers were what won me it, because I put them in the net in a time when literally not much else was being caught. Something else that was really important was to keep your rig moving. So like if I didn't get a bite within like, I don't know, 20 seconds of the rig settling, literally lay it all back in, let that hook bait fall through the water, and often you'd get a bite just as it settled. And the skimmers tended to move around the swim a lot. If you notice, I'm not feeding like what I'd call a mega tight area. I'm being quite rough with my bait. It's because the skimmers, indication, and just lay the whole rig back in. The skimmers tended to move around a lot. So one minute they were up toe, then they were just past the bait, then they were bang on the bait. So if I didn't get a bite in one spot, I almost lay the rig in a slightly different spot. But laying the rig in was really, really important. If you just sat with your bait on the bottom, I got very few bites. Like they're literally watching that bait fall through the water and then following it down. Lifting and dropping again. I didn't get a bite within sort of 5-10 seconds. Just lift the rig out, drop it back in. Bearing in mind the stamp of the skimmer, you're not going to catch one every 10 seconds. If I catch one every 2 minutes, that's like £7 every sort of 10 minutes at £1.50 a piece, which is amazing fishing. So you can be a little bit patient, and they tended to come in bursts. There's lots of different sizes of fish. On the match itself, I did catch, I mean, that's a nice roach. I'll just hold him. That's a nice roach, but I'd roach up, so I'd say a pound in weight. There is some really big roach, but again, it's all about the right stamp of fish. And I think one of the things I learned is if you don't feed enough bait, you tend to catch the wrong stamp. It almost feels like sometimes you're overfeeding. Once the fish arrive, it's all about being mega efficient. Now, by being efficient, I mean really positive, really aggressive, and being quick. So my setup sort of reflects that. It's heavier than what you'd expect, but that's because when the fish are there, you need to make hay while the sun shines. Pretty sure this isn't a skimmer. Whether I can turn it is also now debatable. But while I'm playing it, I'll just talk you through the actual setup. Elastic, white hydro, nice and soft for them big skimmers, but gives me a chance if I do hook a carp, as I have done now. Main line is 019 N gauge. Again, really, really positive. I've got a 6-inch hook length, 016 Supernatural to a 12 Kaizen. Bearing in mind my hook baits are 6mm expanders, single grain of corn, and whatever I put on, because there's a lot of small fish, I'm threading them on. Because what I don't want to be doing is striking at bite, striking my bait off, because that takes too much time. Then on the float choice, I'm fishing in 6 foot of water, and as I've said, 6-7 foot, a lot of the fish are off bottom, so I feel like a slow fall of the hook bait is really, really important. So I've got a 0.6 JL float, nice thick bristle, easy to read, I can sort of dot it down. I just think a really nice pattern, designed as more as a margin pattern for deep margins, but it's one that I love for this style of fishing, and sort of that 5-6 metre line for carp as well. And then shotting pattern, just trying to get a bit of control over this, is a loosely strung bulk of number 9s, bottom shot 6 inches from the hook, and then sort of like a reversed tapered bulk. I don't know if I've gone too early with these sections, no. A reverse tapered bulk, sort of like starting off just over 1 centimetre apart and then gradually getting slightly wider. I want the rig to be positive, but at the same time I want that nice slow fall of the, just about got that back on in time, of the hook bait. I mean, I am feeding this, bear in mind I'm not, the match I fished is about carp and silvers, so I was hoping to hook carp. I did catch one little one in the match on this, Today's a little bit different, although the weather's very similar, as in it's really mild, wind in exactly the same direction. I have got the benefit probably that I'm pulling carp from an even wider area than I was on the day. Bear in mind I was end peg, but there was a line of anglers to my right. Doesn't feel a massive carp, but it's a carp in that sort of time of day whereby if I was deliberately targeting them, my chances of catching one would be slim. Whereas by fishing in this style, I've been able to catch several big skimmers, and now I've got my carp. I mean, there is no, I will add as well, although we're talking about being positive, this fish could be 8 pounds, so there's no rush. If it takes me 7-8 minutes to get it out, I'm not going to catch 8-pounder skimmers or anything else in that time. So let's make sure we get him out, and then we can worry about the skimmers. If I get chance in a second, just because I know how hungry the fish are in here, as in the amount of fish that are eating, I will feed again. Just thought he might pop up then, but he's not going to. So all I'm going to do is jam that pole between my legs. A couple of pouchfuls of pellets. Again, they don't have to be on a 6pence. I'm looking to catch over a big area because I'm looking for a lot of fish. If we were looking for like 3 or 4 fish, I'd be trying to feed a lot tighter. I probably wouldn't even risk doing that, feed everything by pot. But I want to catch a lot of fish. Starting to get somewhere, I think. I mean, this is the beauty of white hydro, as in it does give you a chance, but also is soft enough for those skimmers and even the big roach. Just saw the end of the elastic then, which is a first. There's a float. Probably pop up and it'll be whoa, and it'll be £2. So I just wanted to have a look at him then to see how big he actually is, whether he's a big one or not. Didn't think it was that big the way it thought at the start. It's a nice fish. Nice bonus. I reckon 7, maybe 7-8 pound. As I said, they do weigh heavy. That is precisely the little bonus. Well, not little. I reckon, don't know, 7-8 pound. Precisely the sort of bonus I'm talking about. And because of the way I'm feeding, yes, I'm fishing for skimmers, but at the same time, I'm giving myself a great chance of catching a couple of bonus carp just in those hours where there's not much to be caught, everything's sort of shut up sharp, ticking along with skimmers, and then a nice carp comes along and I've got that bonus £8. One little point when you are playing skimmers, and the soft elastic helps with this, to keep them under the surface and not splashing, particularly in 6 foot of water. It's still quite clear. So I don't really want them. I want them out the swim nice and quick, but I don't want them splashing all over the top, because that means it could take that little bit longer than to get a bite when I go back in. Normally when you're skimmer fishing, people think light line, small hooks. Now here, there is lots of different sizes of fish, and the key for me to building a weight as fast as possible is to catch the right size. So I need to be positive in my feeding and also with my rig. So instead of sort of fishing very light and maybe like 010, 012 bottoms and like 18s and 16s hooks, I'm all about heavy line. So like 018, 016 supernatural and a size 12 Kaizen. I'm fishing proper hook baits like a 6mm expander, a grain of corn. Everything is geared towards catching the right size of fish, but also as quickly as possible. I've got 2 little number 8 cube back shots, I reckon like 1.5 to 2 inches above the float. They just help in terms of stability in the wind. Just give me that little bit, sort of get the line so it's not getting blown about all over the place. Just make presentation that little bit better, as well as laying the rig in. And something you'll notice over a period of time is I'll lay the rig all over the place, and that's deliberate. It's not just bad angling on my part. It's deliberate, as in the fish tend to be on the move all the time. There's already a decent tow on going right to left. So what I'll be doing as the session sort of progresses is trying down tow, up tow, just past the bait. If the fishing goes hard, I'll deliberately start landing on my bait just short of the float. So I'm fishing at the back edge, because when it's hard, it always seems fishing at the back edge is that little bit better. So although it might not appear obvious, a lot of the things I'm doing, I'm constantly tweaking things as the session progresses. And I think being active definitely puts more fish in the net, rather than just literally placing the rig in exactly the same spot every time, waiting for bites. It's like already now I feel like I need to relay this rig back in, or just lift it and drop it, just to try and make a bite. I honestly believe there's not like loads of skimmers sitting on the bottom. Is that another carp? I don't know. Let's have a look. Yeah, I reckon that might be another carp. I don't know though. Yeah, there's a lot of elastic out for a bream. Just lifting now. Yeah, I think this is a carp. Definitely a few more carp coming in today than there was on the match itself. I think it's a carp. It's just not doing anything. Just take the opportunity. There is plenty of noise today, as you can probably hear in the background. Take the opportunity to feed. Because I honestly believe, although you might think watching this I'm feeding a lot, I reckon within 60 seconds of feeding those pellets, there's no bait left on the bottom. That's because it's getting eaten literally by all sizes of fish. Not just carp, not just skimmers, little roach, all sorts. I must emphasise the puller when you're playing carp on soft elastic like white hydro is invaluable. But also I'm on like what I'd call heavy gear, light line, so I can pull a little bit harder, if you excuse the pun. But equally it's important to, that's a cracking fish. That one's come out like easy as pie. It's important again to make sure they count. But if I wasn't fishing so positively in terms of line, hook, etc., I honestly don't believe I'm landing fish like that. And in the match situation, skimmers are amazing. But if I just hold this one up, I honestly don't believe, get his tail round, had I been fishing light, I'd have landed that. I reckon that's getting hot. It's got to be £9 plus. And again, the way I'm fishing, middle of the match, if I just drop him back in the net, middle of the match, that would be a massive bonus. Question you might be thinking is why am I not fishing like long pole, like 13, 14 and a half meters? Well, there's several reasons for that. The first one is at Meadowlands, the big skimmers tend to come in short. I don't know if it's because it gets carp fished a lot, but they're almost like used to finding bait there. Now, another big plus to fishing short is it's quicker, it's easier, I can be more accurate with a catapult. The depth is very similar here as well. Depth can be really, really important. Like I'm at 6 foot here, 6 to 7 foot. If I went to 13, I'm only gaining like another foot, so there's not a massive depth difference. But what you tend to find as well is if I went further out, this is going to sound really strange, I start getting more tiny silvers, whereas when you catch them short, like this is a great example, you get a much better stamp. Like them bigger skimmers can get more of a look in, or they're happier there. I mean, that's the sort of size that when it comes to building a weight, you can build one really quickly. But going back to my original point, I mean, that's like £2 plus. I can just fish more effectively, if you excuse the pun, on that sort of, I'm literally fishing 6 joints, plus a dolly, I'm a massive fan of the dolly, just because I feel like it just protects your pole, particularly when there's a bit of a gusting wind like today. It's worth mentioning as well, hook bait choices. I've got a few options, but I can simplify them into sort of two. Basically, you're looking at corn or expander. Started off on corn just to see what was there, which is exactly what I did in the match. But just the last few fish, it seems like a 6mm expander is a lot better. I've got literally some F1 Sweet and some standard expanders, both in 6mm. That's really important. A lot of people might be thinking, well, skimmers, you need 4mm expanders. I want to catch the right size of skimmers. If I put a 4mm expander on today, chances are I'm going to start catching little tiny skimmers, 2-ounce roach, fish which are okay, but they're not going to get me to a weight, not going to get me to where I want to be. So when it comes to hooking if we do the expander, got a size 12 Kaizen, which is a big hook, but there's a reason. I'm literally trying to get as much hook as possible. I'm threading the expander on. What that means is I can miss a bite and go back in. I'm not walloping it. When I do get a bite, if you notice, I'm lifting rather than trying to set the hook at like a high velocity. So it's a case of expanders are soft, but with a big hook, with a slightly softer, with a slightly thicker wire, I can thread it on, and it just gives more purchase on the pellet. So if I do miss a bite, I can drop it back in and go again. It's all about being efficient, saving time. So I've missed that bite. Let me just prove it. Yeah, pellet's still on, so just drop it back in. Whereas if I was on a little tiny hook, chances are when I lift, even though I lifted then, I'd have pulled the pellet off. So slightly bigger hook, like the 12 Kaizen, slightly thicker wire, really thread it into the expander so it's got maximum purchase. That way I can get tiny little fish, but I can get multiple strikes out of that pellet. See, if these move in, although they're not tiny roach, if I was on a natural water, 3-ounce roach would be great, but here I want fish a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go back in again with a pellet on, and if I get another roach, I'll switch back to corn. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get a roach on corn, but corn is just that little bit more small fish proof. I've just had a great little run on expanders, and that's what it was like in the match. Catch 3 or 4 on expanders, maybe the roach come back in, catch a couple on corn. Just keep chopping and changing, keep working. People might not think you're working hard, you're being very regimented. But keep working hard and changing things, trying to stay one step ahead. When that wind blows, it's just a bit of a nightmare to feed. So rather than, there we go, got a fish anyway. Right, we've just had, I think this is another, I think that was another roach. Let's try a grain of corn. Hooking corn is similar. Try and find a decent sized grain. I'm not hooking tiny little grains because I want decent stamped skimmers. Literally in through the top, thread it, loads of hook showing. Nice and quick and easy, but plenty of hook showing, and in through that top. As I said, corn's that little bit harder than obviously an expander pellet is, so it's more small fish proof. That wind's just being annoying at the minute. If it carries on like this, what I'll probably do is revert to feeding and then going out. This is exactly what happened on the match, as in wind got up and made it really difficult. But when you're fishing short, sometimes a big wind's better. It gives the fish a little bit of cover. If you get a little lull like I've got now, just going to feed. They haven't really come off bottom today, not like they did the other week. Still plenty of them there, but there's not been as many fish up in the water. So this is a great example of what I sort of spoke about earlier. You get runs where them skimmers come in, and then when they're gone, the roach fill in the gaps. The only plus when the roach are in, if you put corn on, you tend to catch more roach, and obviously missing bites isn't such an issue as it can be with a soft pellet. Just going to try dropping, going slightly past. If you notice, I'm just sitting slightly forward. So before I feed, I'm going to try what would be off the back, at the back of the bait. A few pellets are going out there. Probably get another roach, but sometimes you just find them big skimmers miss my bite. I'll just try it once more. Them big skimmers just sit off the back. When they're really there, they'll be bang on the feed. But the other day, I had spells where they were like 2 foot to the right. Bear in mind it's towing to the left. There you go. Oh. There was something sitting off the back, but it's not a skimmer, it's another carp. But it just goes to show, I reckon if I'd have stayed on my bait, I'm not saying I wouldn't have hooked this carp, but it would have took a lot longer to hook it. As soon as the skimmers go, that can be another sign that the carp have moved in, because they will push them out. So if you do ever think, if you're ever fishing this sort of style, this is steaming, this one, and you think there's a carp there, it can be worth coming back and just putting like 2 bits of corn on. A £1.5 skimmer will still eat 2 bits of corn, but if there's a carp there, it might just single it out a little bit quicker. Yeah, Meadowlands is a venue whereby I honestly think the carp fight as hard, if not harder than anywhere else, like ridiculous, which is not great when you're skimmer fishing, which is one of the reasons I step up, because every carp hooked I need to land. And I'll probably jinx myself now, but that 016 supernatural hook length gives me a great chance. You might be thinking, why am I using Engage mainline and a supernatural hook length? I love Engage, obviously it's a copolymer, shot moves amazingly well on it, but supernatural for spades, when I say spades, tying a spade end hook, it just grips really nice behind the spade, makes hook tying so easy. So that's the reason I use Engage for my rigs. Shot move on it really well. The Bad Angling Police come in case that was a siren, in case you're wondering what I'm talking about. Yeah, on Engage the shot moves really well, it's highly abrasion resistant, but supernatural just for tying spade end hooks, I just think it takes some beating. Well, it seems the carp are moving in, which is a great indicator that it's going to be time to try the edge. But it's not a case of just going straight down the edge. I need to set it up. So I'm going to pop this one back and talk to you about exactly how I set up the edge and then when I'm going to go on it. Right, with more and more carp coming in on that short line, I've got to be thinking about the edge. Now, it's not a case with the edge of just going straight down there, putting a pot of bait, following it in with a float and catching one instantly. I want to set it up. So what I'm going to do, it's 2 mil fishery pellets and corn, literally, I don't know, 80, 100 grains of corn, nice big handful, a couple of handfuls of fishery wetted down 2 mils. So I'm like 2/3 filling the pot, just pat it down so it's nice and easy to ship out. What I don't want to be doing is bouncing pellets all over the place. I'm fishing it to the next platform, which is pretty much 14.5 meters away. It's quite tough in this wind, so I don't want to be bouncing bait. So just lightly compress it, just means no bait's going to be going all over the place as I'm shipping out. So I'm going to put 2 pots like that in, then I'm going to leave it 15 minutes, and then I'm going to put on the pole, when I go in, large guru pole pot. I'm going to fill that with pellets and corn again, and I'll top up with that. But to set it up, 2 big pots of bait, leave it 15 minutes, and then the reason I put the little pot on is so I know I'm fishing over bait. Believe it or not, I'm going to be feeding 2 pots is a lot of bait. It's sort of 450 mil, but that could all be gone in 15 minutes. But I want to set the trap, get the fish used to visiting the spot. So put that in. Some of it might be left, some of it might not. If not, I'm just going to kindle over the top and then we'll see what happens. Right, it's been 15 minutes since I fed those 2 pots, so it's time to have a look in the edge. If there is one there, I'd expect a response, if you excuse that noise in the background we just heard, pretty quickly. I'm going to bait with a single grain of corn to start with. Got the large pole mounted pot on. Just going to put 8 to 10 grains of corn, just cap it with the wetted down fishery 2 mils. Just put my thumb on them on the top, again, just so they're not all going to bounce out on the way. I say if there's one there, I'd expect either a bite or an indication within 2 minutes of going in. If I don't, then obviously I'd go back to the skimmer line, skimmer stroke carp line, you could say. So right, let's just get this to the reason I put the pot on is I want to know that I'm fishing over some bait. Just letting the rig straighten out, it's really important. So obviously hook floats in. I want to know that I'm fishing on bait, whereas there is definitely a few carp feeding today. Those 2 pots could have been cleaned out. There we go. That didn't take long. Just got to keep it away from that pallet. I'm fishing to the pallet because it gives a bit of cover and the depth's good. I mean, I don't think today they would come into like 12 inches of water, but they'll come into 3 foot, which is pretty much what I'm in now. And with that pallet, just makes them feel a little bit safer. Can't beat striking into a big carp on red hydro. It's actually softer than you think, but it just gives you that little bit of control as well. See, if I hadn't fed those 2 pots, obviously I couldn't have guaranteed such a quick response. And it's also important not to waste time there. If I was catching on, say, my 6 joint line, 2 minutes there is plenty. Because if there's one there, I'd expect a line or a proper bite within 2 minutes, which is pretty much what happened. I always think it's important to treat every carp on its merits. Some carp fight harder than others. This one's all over the place. It's also quite, with that strong wind, it's quite difficult to feel exactly what's happening, as in how much elastic's out, etc. Probably a bit more than I thought then. Tell you what, let's just put that in there like that. Tell you what, they don't half pull in here. It's important to try and keep everything low, and by keeping it low, you're almost minimising the pressure. Nearly there now, I think. If they start to run, if you lift the pole and they start to run, just drop it down again, and it tends to stop them. Here we go, we're going to get a chance. Oh, that's a cracking comment. Carp in the spring tend to feed late, particularly when you've got room. I was on the end peg, so I've got room. Always a good chance the carp are going to come in, weather lovely and mild. But when they come in, you've got to make every single one count. On a venue like this, they pretty much average 8 to 10, 12 pound. So gear wise, we're looking at red hydro. I need to be positive. I need to hook one, get it out the swim so it's not disturbing the others. Then sort of 022 N-gauge main line, 018 supernatural hook length, 12 excess spade. Really positive in my feeding, so I'm constantly keeping the carp there. But just maximising the time I've got at them. I literally had in the match 70 minutes, 10, 11 carp for £100. That's being super efficient. So let's just hold him up. It's double figures every day of the week. Cracking looking fish as well. And how quick that was goes to show just how important priming it is. Those 2 pots 15 minutes before, large pole pot on the end of the pole, tap the bait out, nice and precise, as in lowering the rig in, and I reckon we waited 20 seconds and this beauty was on. I'm pretty confident now, if it follows the same sort of plan. The hardest part of edge fishing is the first fish. We've got the first fish. I'm pretty sure the second's going to follow pretty quick. Well, we've had the first fish, but I want to see if there's a second one there. So, single grain of corn. When I'm trying to target a big carp, you've got 2 up baits for me, single or double corn. At the minute, because I caught the last fish on a single, or the first one, I'm going to pick a nice big grain of corn, hook in through the top, thread it on, then 15-20 bits of corn, micros on top, nice thumbprint, same as before, literally repeating the process. That for me is just enough bait, hopefully to catch one if there's one there. If I go in now and there's not one there, I'd put the big pot back on the basis that I know at least one carp has visited the area because I've caught it. So I might need to reset it. Let's just empty this, let the pot sit in the water, just so it removes the vacuum. There we go. Float, literally, like to sort of hold it up, let everything straighten. Right next to that pallet. Lower it in. So rig placement's really important when you're fishing for big carp, this sort of scenario. Just making sure everything's nice and straight. Just lifting it there to straighten it again. Like I say, if there's another one there, on the match itself, I never had to put the big pot back in. I was literally big full kinder, wait anything between 30 seconds and 3-4 minutes. Once I've caught the first one, I'm quite happy to wait for the second one, maybe 5 minutes, because they're so big. There we go. Whoa, keep him out that pallet. He's out. That's almost like the perfect scenario. Tap the bait in, everything settles nicely on the bottom. A couple of lifts and drops just to keep that rig nice and straight. And then a proper 100-mile-an-hour bite. You might notice as well, I've left a little bit of show on the float. Again, because the fish are big. You know, foul looking a fish is, you're always going to foul look an odd one. But by leaving a little bit more show and trying to read the float a little bit better, I definitely think you foul look less. So this one's coming much quicker than the first one. Little tip when you're edge fishing, this probably backfired me now, it's steamed off. I always like to unship with a spare section. It just gives me something quick. If that fish bolts now, I can quickly pick up that number 3, attach it, and follow the fish a little bit. Like it's gonna go, is it gonna go? No, it's just turned. Again, if you notice, I'm keeping it nice and low. It's a big fish again, I think. You know, what I'd be expecting now is last out like the match. That skimmer line's now obsolete. I'll be fishing to that platform to the end. So as a rule with carp, once one starts coming in, the rest will follow it. It might just be that I have to adjust my feeding, as in I might have to put that big pot back on. But at the minute, the large pole mounted pot is absolutely perfect just for catching one fish at a time. I think what happens is sometimes they get used to, even when there's no bait there, they get used to visiting the spot. Mirror. You can see they're a high average size as well. Realistically, you're looking at 10 edge fish is pretty much 100 pound. Obviously there are exceptions, but as a rule on here, that's the sort of size carp you're dealing with. Which is another reason why we're on the red hydro. Whoa. Here he comes, oh, nearly. Big fish. I will mention as well, you might think, why is he fishing so far? 14.5, could I not catch them at 6 metres? I just think, oh, that's a terrible, not a bad bit of netting. I just think fishing further away from for yourself at this time of year when the water's still a little bit cold, a little bit clear, that's absolutely beautiful, that fish. Going back to what I was saying though, fishing a little bit further away from yourself just gives you, they're more confident. I think they're reluctant to come really close to us, as in the anglers, when it's like the conditions are like this. Definitely going to hold that one up because this one is absolutely stunning. I think the word for it is apple slice scales. I reckon 10-12 pound in weight, and that's literally 2 fish in, I don't know, 10 minutes for probably 25 pound, which shows you how quickly you can go from maybe 40-50 pound of skimmers to 100 pound plus catches. Because I'm quietly confident now, we've had 2, it's literally going to be like buses, they're just going to keep coming. As long as I keep busy, keep that bait going in, like I say, maybe pick up that big pot, We're fishing in the perfect location, right time of day, which is really important, and very positive with our feeding. While I'm playing this, the third one, just talk you through rig, etc. Obviously elastic, red hydro, big fish in the edge, there's nothing else like it. Main line 022 engage, 4-inch hook length of 020 supernatural, size 12 XS spade, and then float. Bearing in mind I'm fishing in 3 foot of water, it's quite windy. I've broken my rule about the extra sector. Tell you what, I'm going to do what I should do. Put that section. That fish is moving at speed anyway. But yeah, float. Bear in mind I'm fishing in 3 foot of water. This one's proper woke up. 0.4 margin diamond. Whoa, come on. 0.4 margin diamond. A little bit of stability is really important. If the rig was too light, it's going to sort of waft around too much, chance of foul looking fish. So 0.4 gram margin diamond, nice and stable. And then shotting pattern, I've got number 9 cubes. I love cubes for edge fishing because they move a little bit on the line. And so if they come into contact with the edge of the platform, etc., they'll slide. You're not going to get broke. So cubes rather than shot for all my, it's another good fish actually, for all my margin fishing. And then I've also got 2 number 8 cube back shots, 2 inches above the float, again just to give me stability, stop that line from blowing all over the place in the wind. Presentation, even though you're dealing with great big carp like that in the edge, is still very, very important, because if your presentation's not right, you'll start foul looking them, you'll start getting line bites, and you'll soon spook them. And as you can see, you don't need many carp when they are just gorgeous this size to build a weight quickly. One other point to make about this type of fishing, as in margin fishing, red hydro, is you need a strong pole, and the Aventus 900 is exactly that. I'm not an angler who wants to carry 2 poles, so I need 1 pole that can do it all. And the 900 is equally at home catching silvers or big carp, which is exactly what I want. For those interested, it's also about choosing the right top kit. I've got the 5.8mm Carp Power, which takes red hydro as standard. Oh, break my rule again about that section. Just gives me that insurance policy should it storm off. So yeah, 5.8mm Carp Power, red hydro, it'll take as standard. Very strong, but very stiff as well. When you've got a stiff top kit, the elastic works that little bit better. So to summarise, this has been a brilliant example of 2 lines, getting your timings right. This one's not actually fighting that hard for good fish. Getting your timings right, as in putting fish in the net in that sort of dead spell when the carp aren't really feeding on the short pole. Oh, that's a little bit of luck. And then finishing with the big finale down the edge. And to be honest, it doesn't get any better than that.